Coming up on today's wrestling news, I'm going to fill you in on some major fallout following last night's AEW Dynamite, including Tony Khan announcing a major change to an AEW championship, a huge title change in the main event of last night's Dynamite, and Jon Moxley turning heel. As well as that, WWE has moved to legalise gambling on scripted results. I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. So yes, lots to get into following last night's Dynamite. We'll get into that big title change in a second. But talking about another title, the All Atlantic Championship is no more, or it's very soon to be no more, basically. Tony Khan announced on last night's show, and we'll get the footage, to be honest, in a second, of him announcing that the All Atlantic Championship is now going to become the AEW International Championship, and Orange Cassidy will be defending it against this man. Sorry, we'll be losing it to this man on next week's Dynamite. So yeah, Tony Khan popped up with another huge announcement. I'm surprised he didn't tweet about it to try and pop a rating, where he said, ready? I'm here tonight because the All-Atlantic Champion, Orange Cassidy, has requested an open challenge match next week in Winnipeg against Double J Jeff Jarrett. I'm honouring that request. Next week, Winnipeg, Orange Cassidy versus Jeff Jarrett. Jesus, odd. This match represents an important milestone for our company. I'd like to tell you about it on behalf of AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery. Next week marks the fifth and final defense of the AEW All-Atlantic Championship.
Your leg's not even on camera.
Next week, All-Atlantic Championship on international soil. It's the only AEW championship to ever change hands on international soil. And next week, in partnership with Warner Bros. Discovery to support the release of Shazam! Fury of the Gods, next week in Winnipeg, it'll be Orange Cassidy versus Double J Jeff Jarrett. AEW International Championship. Next week, Winnipeg. We'll level up the championship! So yeah, they're levelling up the championship from the All-Atlantic to the International.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
What thoughts on that? I don't have any thoughts anymore. I used to have thoughts. I used to be a thinker. And that's made me a drinker. It's good, actually.
It's better than when they called it the All-Atlantic Championship and put some flags on there, and I was like, what's that doing there?
What's that? Yeah, oddly enough, we were talking yesterday on the Dynamite Preview podcast, which you can still get wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music.
Check it out!
And beyond. It's a great podcast! And Pac won the belt, and then I think defended it in a couple of indies.
Yeah.
Over here, maybe, or certainly abroad.
Uh-huh.
And that was pretty exciting, because they thought, wow, the belt doesn't need to have title matches over there. It can have them over here.
Yeah.
It can have them anywhere, in fact. This international title seems to be now that. It's going to be defended in Canada next week. If Jeff Jarrett wins, one of the reasons he's been brought in is to be like the live events coordinator. AEW announced their London date, although they announced London on a graphic.
They're coming here at some point.
Not long after Jarrett was hired, and he's always had this like pretty great relationship with people in the UK, and the TNA tours were kind of beloved for those of us that were fortunate enough to attend. And maybe he's the perfect guy to travel around the world to book dates, and then while he's over there, take his gear and work a title match. Yeah. Genuinely, why not build a weird prestige of this international title, and of course the legendary legacy of that great man right there, while booking some towns. And I'm not against all of this, quite honestly. I don't know if maybe my feelings towards it have been coloured by the fact the first match graphic was Jeff Jarrett versus Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was like Orange Cassidy versus Chuck Taylor in a best friends derby, I'd have been less convinced that this is going to work. But yeah, I think the branding's better. Genuinely, I do. I know that might sound a little bit too close to Intercontinental for some people. And if they don't follow up on the international thing, it becomes like the WWE European title, where suddenly the labelling is completely meaningless. But I think I'm willing to give this one a chance, you know.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see where this goes. As I said, the All Atlantic title was a weird name for it anyway. I mean, technically, every championship's international, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, it got sadder when...
Yeah, if you do what you suggested, I like that as a touch.
You know, when the match graphic would have the flags on, and then increasingly it was just the American flag and the American flag. Right, okay then.
Lucky they had that video package pre-edited with Jeff Jarrett and Orange Cassidy, considering he attacked him on the same show, along with the Shazam stuff. Coincidence, that, wasn't it?
As you can tell, based on how quickly they fixed the fact that Taz and Tony Schiavone's commentary was coming through the speakers in the first 3 seconds.
How is this still happening after all these years?
AEW's production works fast, unless they were able to get that video made.
Right, let's talk about the title.
So much trouble. Oh, God.
Let's talk about the big title change on last night's AEW Dynamite. The TNT Championship is no longer, technically it wasn't in the possession of Wardlow anyway going into last night's show. That sucked. I don't know. I'm really hoping it's a work now because I think it really depresses me as a story that someone actually broke into his car and stole all of his stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was defending against Powerhouse Hobbs in the main event of last night's Dynamite and lost it courtesy of interference from the guy behind QTV. Who could that possibly be? It's QT Marshall. He got involved. In a false count anywhere match, used the chair, helped Powerhouse Hobbs powerbomb him off the stage through a nice soft crash mat. And Wardlow couldn't answer the count of 10, and Powerhouse Hobbs is your new TNT champion. That sentence, Powerhouse Hobbs is your new TNT champion, I'm very happy about. The way they went about it, less so.
Aye. Delivery methods a bit all over the place here. Your opinions may vary on the Falls Count Anywhere match between Powerhouse Hobbs and Wardlow, and the fact that the finish, while understandable with it being Falls Count Anywhere, a wrestler can be counted down and out for 10.
Yeah. But
that felt a little bit lightweight considering that we were supposed to be getting a pinfall and a definitive winner here. They relied a lot on Excalibur to try and explain something that, look, either plenty of people seem to have forgotten about this, brief relationship, this dalliance between QT Marshall and Powerhouse Hobbs from last year when Hobbs was feuding with Ricky Starks. Mm-hmm. It either required people to remember or it was simply too deep in the weeds for them to use in the first place. I don't want to criticise a company for adhering to something they've set up.
Yeah.
And maybe, just because we've forgotten it doesn't mean that it's such a bad thing. But judging from the online conversation this morning about that, a lot of people seem to have forgotten. So this might be a little bit of a misread of what your fans remembered, or could you have peppered in a little bit more? He had the QTV logo on his shirt. It took me a minute to remember what QTV was, let alone the fact that these two have had any crossover in the story. So I'm not going to sort of turn on AEW for remembering something from a segment, because I would rather they did that than not. I would rather they pick stuff back up than drop things.
Exactly.
Ultimately. But none of this came across that big time, and when you've got two men as massive and as awesome as Hobbs and Wardlow, that's less than ideal. Continue to be unclear on if this breaking into his car was a work or a shoot, and I don't like that either. QT Marshall has taken credit for it, which is quite funny. So did Samoa
Joe made a joke about it on Twitter yesterday.
Nothing wrong with folding the reality into the fiction, as we said, but maybe be explicit somehow with the characters next as to if this was a grand plan.
Yeah.
And
they had a TNT title for Powerhouse Hobbs to wear. I just don't think it was the...
That's it. If they'd said, wait a minute, where's QT got that from? And they'd made it part of the story that way, then I could feel comfy that Wardlow hasn't just 24 hours ago gone through this horrific invasion of his things. I don't know, the whole thing didn't play out that well. The match wasn't that great. And yet again, after so much praise, deservedly so, for the awesome coffin on Sunday, a bit of another AEW prop fairly, because I think I want to take a powerbomb onto a mat that looks that comfy. That.
It was the way they were oh my God, and I was like...
Remember the big Gladiators game? I think it was called Poleaxe, where they had to climb giant silver poles and then you press the button at the top and fall off. I remember thinking it looks so comfy to fall onto. It was the biggest red bed ever. I'll take a powerbomb of Powerhouse Hobbs.
Red bed everything. Do you want to play a game?
Yeah.
Name all the TNT champions.
Oh, right.
AEW's history.
I used to do this in exams when I was when I finished my paper 10 minutes before the end. I used to do this with WWE titles, because you could still do it with Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah.
And I was taking exams because there was only been about 3 back then. Right, I'm going to go backwards.
Okay.
Or Powerhouse Hobbs, Wardlow, Samoa Joe, Darby Allin, Samoa Joe, obviously, whatever rotation between these guys again. Wardlow, Sammy Guevara, Scorpio Sky, Sammy Guevara again, Cody Rhodes, Miro. Starting to fall short here, I think. Maybe not Cody, Mr. Brody Lee. And I'm out, I think.
I think that's all of them, basically.
I got them all.
Back and forth.
There you go.
You've not got all the changes.
Yeah.
Cody, Darby, obviously near the beginning, but Cody, Brody, Darby, Miro, Sammy, Scorpio, Wardlow, Samoa Joe.
Hot potato reigns, though.
Yes.
Betray some of that relatively short list of wrestlers. Bounce around quite a lot, doesn't it?
Yes. Right, let's talk about a heel turn on last night's AEW Dynamite. John Moxley sort of more officially turning heel. He's skewed that way, obviously, in recent weeks as part of this hard-hitting, let's say, feud with Hangman Page. But he joined his Bastard Combat Club members, Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, in just fully embracing the dark side, kicking the crap out of Dark Order members. They beat John Silver and Alex Reynolds, did Moxley and Claudio. And then afterwards, Moxley was like, no, I'm just going to keep choking you, actually. Evil Uno came down to get involved. They beat him up. Yuta, as I said, was there as well. And then Hangman Page, despite earlier on in the night saying he was done with Moxley, came down and they all got into it again. The right move for the BCC.
Definitely. I thought this was pretty good stuff as well, actually. Hangman Page, being the overarching babyface in this whole thing, said he was done much earlier on in the show.
Yeah.
But it's nice because in AEW that...
And he apologised to Renee for kicking the crap out of her husband.
Yeah, like he couldn't have been any more sort of affable after the fact, considering how violent the payoff was. And in AEW, typically on pay-per-view, as we would see with the promos from MJF and Bryan Danielson, done means...
promo from Bryan Danielson, by the way.
Done means done.
Yeah.
And Danielson's promo fed into this as well, because he said he was so dejected and so questioning everything that he's gone home. So they've turned heel without Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson was nothing to do with this, as he hasn't been with the BCC in recent weeks. They weren't there to save him, he wasn't there for them, all that sort of good stuff. And then, the turn was kind of confirmed after the bell, because Moxley going back to the attack, and then the BCC triple teaming the Dark Order members individually and picking them apart before Hangman Page changes the numbers games and they think, no thanks, and off they go back through the crowd. I thought that was a really nice touch. Typically, the entering and exiting through the crowd has been seen of like the stable of the people.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it was transformed into them escaping, and I thought that was a really nice touch as well. Yuta's been a bitch for ages. Claudio's been whinging and kind of negging Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
Moxley's way of being heel is struggling to cope with the conflicting emotions of embarrassment and rage. Those are the two feelings he's feeling after Revolution, and he's going to take them out on people that aren't as hard as he is. That's not very nice. He put the bully into bully choke.
Yes.
So, I thought this played out fantastically well, and we came so close to this before Moxley, of course, took his break to get help back in. Was it like late 2021 when
Something
he
like that,
bloodied up 10 under the mask? It was like, he's getting angrier. I just put it down to the fact he had a newborn baby, and I remember I felt like that too. I felt like I could bloody up people sometimes.
You're not had enough sleep.
I've not had any sleep, and all I'm eating is pizza. But obviously then he went away for a bit, and then that was kind of abandoned because he was so needed as a babyface. We're here now, and I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this new direction for Moxley. And the Blackpool Combat Club for a while have been a bit like, huh?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Why don't I like you anymore? Oh no, I'm not. Now I can.
Yeah. Right, let's move over to WWE, who are trying to work with gambling regulators in Colorado and Michigan to make gambling on matches legal in the states. There's a report from CNBC who provided the following from people familiar with the matter, with a report saying WWE is working with the accounting firm EY to secure scripted match results in the hopes it will convince regulators there's no chance of results leaking to the public. WWE executives have cited the Oscars betting as a template to convince regulators gambling on scripted matches is safe. In discussions about how gambling on wrestling would work, WWE executives have proposed that scripted results of matches be locked in months ahead of time. According to people familiar with the matter, the wrestlers themselves wouldn't know whether they were winning or losing until shortly before a match takes place, said the people.
That's imperative, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of important, that part.
Karen Borbin would like to bet $1 million on him losing tonight.
Yeah, how do you feel about this?
Mixed. It's not a shock to those of us in the UK. The Royal Rumble 2001 was the first ever match to play some odds. I remember reading an article in Power Slam magazine, shout out Finn Martin, where they measured the odds against who we as fans thought might win. Seems to recall Kane was 16-1. It's that's a bit strange. And then Kane had his legendary run.
Oh yeah.
So it's I wonder what had what to do with another. A favourite betting on wrestling in the UK memory is there was an accumulator that you could do on WrestleMania 26, I think it was. Stop me if that's wrong. And inexplicably, or was it, Kane beat Randy Orton. And that felt like a coupon buster, to use a UK phrase. And I wonder who in America was maybe placing money in the UK, which ultimately leads to the point where this can be corrupted. And I think they've got an uphill battle here. I know that AEW and WWE work with DraftKings and FanDuel, but that's a gaming app, and I don't get it.
It's a grey area, isn't it, basically?
I'm out of it.
I also don't like the idea of them fixing results that far in advance, because sometimes there's the phrase call an audible for a reason.
Yeah, and then you've got obviously injuries to consider, the fact that booking sometimes needs to pivot. It's a really strange thing, and from a WWE point of view, I get it, because they can get people to be, for the want of a better phrase, invested in their matches without watching the show, but theoretically it makes viewers out of gamblers, which, is fine, I guess, but then gambling's thorny in and of itself. Even as we're talking about this, I feel obliged to say, look, if you're watching this and you have problems with gambling, Google Gamblers Anonymous Worldwide, check out the NHS's advice on gambling if you're here in the UK. It's not a thing I feel mega comfortable glorifying. But it being WWE, you
I
kind of think they would almost instantly.
WWE morally aren't like, well, wait a second, guys.
Yeah, come on, guys. Like, so I don't feel mega comfortable when you like an AEW pay-per-view starts with like a 2-minute DraftKings commercial.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
No.
So like, it's a funny one, this, but you can see why the Evil Empire would fancy a bit of it. You know.
Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, you want to get in touch with us. Shout out to Adam, who sent a picture of his dog Gilbert reacting to another JAS segment. I know that feeling. Adam writes, it's clear that Jericho needs to take some time off. How would you legends book Brody King to demolish the Ocho and write him off TV for a while?
Well, he's just answered the question there, hasn't he? Brody King to demolish him and write him off TV for a while. I was going to say use Floyd the Bat against him, but why when Brody King's fists are harder than any inanimate object?
Have him eat Floyd the Bat.
Yeah. What about Brody King has just absolutely decimated him, and then Kenny Omega in Winnipeg hits him with the one-winged angel, but then obviously he's hoyed out, so the Blackpool Combat Club get the win. So he's taken the most deadly finisher in wrestling, as well as everything Brody King has to offer. And then the Jericho Appreciation Society are kind of lost and rudderless without their fearless leader.
Yeah, a power struggle at the top.
Yeah, that's Garcia's exit strategy.
Yeah.
Without Jericho there.
I need this story to go away for a while.
I need Chris Jericho to go away for a while. So it's good for wrestlers to take a break.
Yeah.
And
go away so I can miss you.
Yeah.
It's a great call, that. J. Phil writes, after the atrocious booking decision last night on Dynamite, so I think we can see how he feel about that main event, teaming Hobbs up with one of the biggest losers in AEW. Is there anything AEW will be able to do to salvage Powerhouse Hobbs? Talk about daft booking. It was a weird call.
It didn't feel great, but like, this is... You know, it is the Let It Play Out company still. I think personally, I would say let's see what this looks like in the weeks to come. The TNT title.
I wish they'd tell stories like WWE does.
The TNT title, when it was launched, to some felt egregious because it was like, oh, that's a belt is going to replace a story. If you think about the early AEW pay-per-view, you had one belt to fight for until the TNT title. Everything had to be a story. I want stories now because this belt bounces around a lot and becomes the excuse for a story. They kind of got near one with Wardlow and Joe, but it didn't really land at Revolution.
No.
Like Hobbs, where this has got me, right, is that when Hobbs was coming back, he felt like a babyface megastar in waiting, and this alignment with QT forces him back into the heel role. That's the sticking point for me. But
doesn't need any help either.
Like, let's take a look at this now, but I don't want like Firm or Factory 2.0.
They've made two huge mistakes when they brought back Powerhouse Hobbs. Number one, I love the idea of the Book of Hobbs. When he actually had a shoot book, I was like, well, what's that? What are we doing? Why has he got a prop? To be like, oh, I'm writing in my Book of Hobbs.
Opens up the book.
Just say I've got the Book of Hobbs and you're all getting your asses kicked, basically. And then, not only lining him up with someone and turning him heel again, but putting him with QT Marshall. Nothing against QT Marshall. I think he does a great job within AEW.
Yeah.
But this was not necessary. I think it was just, and I can't wait to hear your and Sidgwick's thoughts about it on the What Culture Wrestling podcast. And Miller, of course, will give you his thoughts on ups and downs later today.
It's also made people realise that the Factory are now dead, RIP, which nobody even knew about, which speaks to QT
Yeah, he
Marshall's
tweeted
absence.
something. That was about it.
Yeah. So shout out to Anthony Ogogo, who now hopefully can go on the singles run of a lifetime, and Bailey's ex. How was that, guys?
Shane Daniels gives us our final question of the day. Hamlet, you can only pick one. Sammy wins money in the bank. Mm-hmm. The flipping Judgment Day each hold belts at the same time. Shayna wins Queen of the Ring and a world title.
Uh-huh.
The Royal Rumble comes to Britain.
Oh!
Or CM Punk returns to WWE to win the belt off Cody.
Oh my God!
I think this was aimed more at me with the Shayna stuff, but I'd love to know your thoughts.
So I was leaning on the Judgment Day, winning all the belts there, and then he just gave me two killer options at the end. I would love to attend a Royal Rumble in person.
We're going next year.
But I would love work to pay for it. So I'll take CM Punk returning
I just
to
keep
WWE.
saying these things in the hope that I manifest them.
Wrestling misses that goddamn swine so much. It really, really does. AEW probably should be the destination, but WWE would be absolutely wild. So I'll take CM Punk returning in any capacity over most hypotheticals in pro wrestling. Actually,
I think as much as I'd love Punk to be back, and it would be amazing. I want to actually I want the Royal Rumble in America because it'll be better weather over there.
Yeah, that's true.
Be rubbish, be miserable in January, and don't come here in January. I can't sit on my soapbox and campaign for so many years about Sammy winning the Money in the Bank and then back out at this moment. So I'll pick that.
Yeah.
Even though some people would be spitting feathers with me picking that. If they were spitting feathers, is there anything that they could do to, I don't know, wash the taste away, Hamflet.
Well, it's funny you should say that.
We haven't been paid for this, by the way.
Maybe they could take a drink of something that tastes like cake. Should we do this for the
What
first
is
time ever?
this?
Look,
Mountain Dew Fruit Quake.
shout out to Jeff Raidmaker again, who brought Pitch Black into all of our lives after WWE promoted the hell out of it and we were suckers to it. I'm going to have a drink of something that tastes like cake. Do you want to
As you do that, I'm going to move on to today's and finally, right? With a fun fact that I saw from @SaintBetter1 on Twitter, which I thought would blow your mind.
Oh my God.
Let's have a wee sip.
They've put cake in a can.
See, I love like Disaronno and Coke, and that to me tastes a little bit like cake.
This is going to work for you. It's got a bit of Haribo to it as well.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. You've done it again, Mountain Dew.
Can we just get like the American one as well, where they just go, how much sugar do you want in it? Yes.
Yes. Any of those American fans watching that can buy those slabs over there, Google WhatCulture to find the address if you want to send me over. I didn't ask. I'm just planting that seed. What are we talking about here? Right, you've had 86% of your daily sugars, so go
What, one sip?
Yeah, go careful for the rest of the day.
Right, the fact I was going to tell you about that I thought would
Yes,
be nice
please,
to blow
yeah.
your mind with. Roderick Strong's time in NXT is now longer than WCW Monday Night Nitro's entire existence.
Oh my God.
Mind-blowing, that, isn't it?
That's just his injury exit in the Diamond Mine in the
Where is he?
Where's Roderick Strong?
The Creeds are kicking ass in NXT, and everyone agrees NXT's the best weekly wrestling show. So, getting back on telly.
Nearly got all the way through news without that. But here he is.
Dad's going to be back telling me off next week, so I've got to get it in.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right, let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news stories. And if you've ever had a Mountain Dew Fruit Quake. Or a Code Red. I saw Matt Rains going on about a Code Red.
Code Red is good.
Code Red is good. Code Red's cooking.
Pass that on. Pass it over to here, actually.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from. For daily wrestling podcasts, myself and the Daddy Boys sitting down to review AEW Dynamite a little bit later on today. And Simon Miller, as I said, will be here with ups and downs on the channel in a bit as well. Thoughts, Twitter questions, the wacky ones, the wackier, the better for Hamflet and whoever his mystery news guest is tomorrow.
Oof.
I'm off. Annoyingly, because I like the wacky Friday questions.
Wacky stuff.
No
promises on that one. We might not be professional enough, but yeah. If they get bottled up, it'll be for you and Murray next week, so it'll be double bubble. Double bubble.
At WhatCulture WWE. For that, you can find Michael Hamflet on Twitter at
Michael Hamflet.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE. But for now, my thanks to Michael Hamflet. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.